underpin these new technologies. More than 25 years experience in information technology, complex consulting-driven business transformation engagements. Experience includes managing multidisciplinary teams of up to 100 staff spanning multiple sites across different time zones. Please welcome with me Mr. John to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Moderator. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. I would like to thank the Royal Commission for the invite. It's certainly an honor for us to be here and work with the Royal Commission on this significant objective, which is the green economy. I'd like to start with the Saudi Arabia Vision 2030. The three key pillars is a vibrant society, a thriving economy, and an ambitious nation. Everything underpinned by technology. ICT is omnipresent. And that is a responsibility for companies like us, HP, because we have been thriving on the good business. It's now payback time for us. And this is what we're here for today. A key performance indicator of the thriving economy is 40% of all waste to be recycled, and this is by 2020. Now, circular economy and sustainability are critical. We're growing at a race where we're outpacing the energy and resources needed to support the demands. There is an opportunity and imperative to invest in technologies that will allow business to operate and thrive in a resource-constrained world because we don't have infinite resources. Every sector is undergoing digital transformation. IT companies like us have a unique opportunity to accelerate the world's transition to a circular economy. This one that decouples economic growth from consumption by maximizing the value of resources and minimizing waste. Wherever you are on your transformation journey, we feel that HP can help you achieve your business and sustainability goals by applying our innovation engine to drive smarter operations and capture new economic value from data. Ladies and gentlemen, every year we generate the same amount of data that has been created since the beginning of mankind today. That's very, very significant. But the key to doing this, the reason for doing this, is extracting business value from data, turning data into insights and insights into actions. And as you can appreciate, all of this requires huge computing power. And this is where the sustainability equation comes in. We must find a way to sustainably meet the data needs of the future. At HP, we take an active focus on driving this paradigm shift to a circular economy. We take a complete life cycle approach to our products, from the way they're designed all the way to when they're used. And to what do we do, also to what do we do when we're done. Our holistic approach to product design results in lower product power consumption and a reduced waste, that reducing the total cost of ownership for our customers, and of course it contributes to a more circular economy. Our engineers have detailed understanding of the product life cycle impacts. They prioritize areas for improvement in the design stage, creating far more efficient solutions that improve product energy performance and reduce environmental impact. So this is a typical case where we practice what we preach. We have changed our operating model because to achieve a proper the circular economy targets, not only one has to be careful with waste, but to change the operating models of their business. And we have done that. We design for recyclability. Today's society involves around technology and the constant need for the newest products. My son, my daughter, they keep on asking me, can I change my mobile phone? My answer, of course, to that is no. But so many other children have been, you've been in my shoes. We all get that. the constant need for change of our IT equipment. In most cases, this is a social statement more than anything else. But this is fact. This is where we are. In fact, an estimated 5 billion tons of e-waste has generated worldwide in 2018. That's a significant amount. Rather than approaching this problem simply at the end of a product's life cycle, as I mentioned before, we design recyclability, repairability, and component recovery right in the design of our products. Whereas many consumer goods are designed for a lifespan of about 2 years, and this is evident with mobile technologies, with mobile phones, for example. That's an example. I'm not saying everybody, but I say most of them. HP enterprise products are, the life cycle of HP enterprise products normally exceed 5 years. HP recyclability assessment tool enables us to calculate and improve the end-of-life recyclability for our products. Based on this assessment, HP products are 90% plus recyclable on average. The materials innovation. We take a proactive approach on removal and restricted substances, maximizing the abilities for products to have residual values and at the end of the customer's use. This increased value returned to the customers, as well as minimizing the recycling cost at the product's ultimate end of life. Each year, we audit and assess 95% of our supply chain by spend, by environmental and social compliance with HP standards. For the past 3 years, 0 instances of non-conformance have been identified with regards to material restrictions. This ensures we're a trusted sourcing partner to our customers, allow them to meet their specific material restriction and enable global availability of technology assets. Major efficiency innovations from our Design for Environment program include significant performance per watt improvements, power supply improvements, real-time thermal and power mapping and monitoring at the component level. HP energy efficient improvements reduce the energy consumption required to accomplish this task, reducing OpEx cost for energy and cooling. In addition, to accomplish more compute with less power and with more dense architectures reduces CapEx cost associated with constructing new data center white space, the additional white cooling infrastructure and additional power infrastructure. HP has been focusing on helping our customers use technology most effectively, a concept we call it efficient IT. We're focusing on delivering holistic IT solutions that help us optimize our customers' IT operations. For example, most servers underutilized by more than 80%. That's a significant number. According to the National Resource Defense Council report, yet still consume considerable amount of energy while doing nothing. Many of our customers are unaware of this. The estimate aggregate cost of these comatose servers are around $30 billion. That's a significant amount of money. $30 billion in unused data center capital globally. And where we're putting an end to that, we are putting an end to this with our solutions like composable infrastructure and our consumption-based offering, eliminating energy and IT waste. At the beginning of the presentation, you heard me saying about we need to change our business model, and this is what it's all about, changing the business model, changing the way we meet demand. Some of the key benefits of this approach include the IT agility, the collective IT capability of an enterprise IT organization, like the infrastructure support, in most cases is highly underutilized. HP Synergy Technologies helps flip this equation by automating the processor provision and deploying server instances and applications on time and as needed. Total cost of ownership. Ultimately, Synergy Technologies reduce cost. The cost of under-provisioned servers that they sit in the racks with minimal utilization without consuming power, the cost of management, the cost of IT inefficiency, and the cost of lost opportunity because IT is unable to quickly respond to the market. Time to value. This means decreasing the amount of time it takes to turn an idea into a product. And everyone knows that time is the ultimate factor in economics. The transition to a truly circular economy, we also need to align to transition to a new business model and innovate new-enabled technologies. IT as a service are rising in popularity across the world as companies explore new consumption models such as leasing or sharing products. HP GreenLake is another change HP has introduced to its business processes, to the way it promotes purchasing with the customers. So it's on-premise managed infrastructure service, delivering IT resources to the customer location and managing the asset with the customer only pay for what he uses, so there is no more waste. From an accounting point of view, this moves expenditure from CapEx model to an OpEx model and frees up capital tied up on legacy assets. From an environmental perspective, the ownership models achieve reduction in energy use and hardware materials. So win-win situation from the accounting perspective and from an environmental perspective also. Our customers have reported that the 30% CapEx savings are due to eliminated need for over-provision, yielding financial and environmental savings. Quite significant, both of them. As business upgrade to high-performing, more energy-efficient devices, they face a challenge. What should they do with other equipment? Should they get rid of it? No, because they have paid once upon a time, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they have paid a significant amount of money. No, to this end, we have established the HP Technology Renewal Centers that not only take back HP equipment, but any equipment. I repeat, any equipment. We take back any equipment, regardless of manufacturer. We handle anything from servers and networking to desktop and printers. And we offer multiple programs across our global markets to encourage participation in the circular economy, such as HP Renew. Through our Return and Renew programs from HP and HP Financial Services, we maintain the quality of component materials so they continue to be useful beyond the end of, before the shelf life of individual products. They retain value and they become resources of tomorrow. The HP asset upcycling services can maximize the value of end-of-use assets and can offer value return to customers from assets with remaining market value. This means providing money back to our customers they can invest in other innovation projects. Our market research shows that the majority of our customers are interested in IT equipment retirement and recycling and in recovery value for that equipment. And more than 2/3 of our customers would be interested in using certified pre-owned equipment where it meets your technology needs. I keep mentioning the intensive, why we need to change, but really, ladies and gentlemen, to change a business model, we need to change the circumstances, and this is practicing what we preach. We give organizations incentives to change the business processes. Simply giving the assets to a recycling company is an incomplete approach, really. First, there is a data sensitivity that needs to be addressed, especially in the new data protection world. Second, there is value in the assets that they can be recovered by giving to a recycling company. Most organizations, they don't recover anything. And third, there is a circular economy benefit for refurbishing and remarketing these assets. HPE, asset upcycling services and pre-certified own products are two services you can begin using now, helping you to meet and your business your sustainability goals. Returning assets to the economy not only minimize environmental impact, It also returns value as products are used into the marketplace. This is what circular economy is all about. HP's new circular economy report provides our customers, IT and sustainability organizations, with information about related to carbon, energy, material, and landfill savings achieved by returning retire of end-of-use assets to us for processing through our HP technology renewal centers. This is very important information to share, especially as investors in most organizations and customers now increasingly request the disclosure of a company's environmental impacts. But even more important than the information is the message behind, that we have the capability to find new ways to manage the explosive demands for data by using far less space, materials, and energy. In fact, I think as it stands now, HP is the only world-leading manufacturer able to offer those services. I have an IT technology, I'm an IT technologist, and sometimes it surprises me going to organizations, talk to customers, and I can see IT managers, my colleagues on the other side of the fence, that they are missing an opportunity to contribute to the organization's green management goals. This is a missed opportunity. We can help these organizations by placing any organization, IT director, chief information officer, and their chief sustainability officer together in the same room. We can create the necessary conditions. We can mediate between those two because sometimes those two, they may have conflicting priorities, which is normal. In many organizations, people do have conflicting priorities. This is stakeholder management. There are three things we can help you do. Form a partnership between your sustainability team and your IT team to create an IT environmental sustainability plan. Set targets that include reducing your power consumption. And third, measure the impact you are having on the circular economy. The circular economy can help companies meet the business goals and sustainability goals simultaneously by increasing operational efficiencies and opening, as I mentioned before, new market opportunities, because we do believe circular economy can create new market opportunities. Our challenge is to identify these new opportunities to generate the revenue while creating energy and or other material savings. One place to start, as we mentioned before, is to get the stakeholders all in one room across your organization and make sure they understand how to apply sustainable technology solutions to power new business opportunities that contribute to circular economy. Form a partnership and set targets together. Start with the least disruptive changes regarding process innovation, then explore new market and product opportunities with the ultimate goal of business model innovation. Like other major transformation programs, as I'm sure you all have faced or you have been part of, this is another business transformation. Start small and start real. Form a winning coalition with your stakeholders. Make sure you identify the positive stakeholders to influence the negative ones. Create the win-wins and gain momentum. Start small and start real and continue. Achieving a sustainable future will require disruptive transformation across every industry. In an area of infinity connectivity, but finite resources, we must partner with our customers and stakeholders to catalyze sustainable innovation in our industry and beyond. As HP, we believe together we can solve the world's most complex challenges. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. John. Very informative. I'd like to welcome the second speaker, Mr. Hemant Chaudhary. Hemant is an acclaimed international authority in the area of circular economy and works extensively on global initiatives with the UN, World Bank, and international agencies. In a career spanning 28 years, he has worked for large corporation governments, peak industry bodies, non-government organizations, municipal corporations, community groups, and venture capital investors. Hemant heads Circular Economy Alliance Australia, an impact agency specializing in thought leadership, policy development, strategic consulting, knowledge sharing, training, and capacity building programs. Help me welcome Mr. Hemant onto the stage. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm just waiting for. Yep. Just use that. Okay, perfect. Yep, great. Is it there? Excellent. Well, first of all, it's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be here in this great country. I first visit and I had the privilege to actually visit the museum in Riyadh and was just absolutely overwhelmed with the rich history and the tradition. It just goes back to thousands of years. So I'm very pleased I did that, and I'm here now to talk about what we do in this space of circular economy, what I do particularly with the government of South Australia, as well as with the United Nations and some other agencies like the World Bank in this space. And look, it's absolute privilege. And what I want to do is really share the journey of South Australia over the last 30 years. I've been personally associated with that journey. I went to Australia in 90s to actually pursue my higher studies, and perhaps the way the fate would have it, I was asked to be part of a foundation team to set up the EPA, which is the Environment Protection Authority of South Australia. And I was given the task to actually set up the industry program for the state. It was a time when United Nations Environment Program actually was getting very active with their cleaner production program. So we had a tie-up with UN, and we ran a program on cleaner production. We engaged with 48 different industries covering nearly 18 different industry sectors. So food, manufacturing, metal finishing, tanneries, construction, you name it. And the aim was to actually look at a preventative and a comprehensive approach to their entire operation and prevent the waste at source. That would look at every angle, housekeeping, materials management, source segregation, you name it, after we, what is interesting to report is that these are 18 different industry sectors covering nearly 50 industries. The Center for Economic Studies, which is an independent body in Adelaide, did a economic evaluation of the entire program, which was done over 3 years. For every dollar that was spent on that program, the return on investment was 32.3. So can you imagine what is the potential of taking a approach which actually relies on prevention? So that has been the starting point of my journey in this area, and I guess also I've been closely involved with a number of pioneering initiatives in the state. So just give you a bit of a background on South Australia. It's the driest state in the driest continent. And it's, as I always say, necessity is the mother of invention. And as a result, the water quality of the river system is pretty poor. What we get there, and also the rainfall is, I would say, better. It's not, but it's around 400 millimeters per year. So obviously, in the psyche of the community, there was always this desire to do more with less. That always happens, and that's been one of the key aspects of driving change that I have been personally involved with. So this is what Adelaide is the capital of South Australia, and some of the things I have outlined there on that particular slide. If you look at them, the challenges that we face as around the world, we had those challenges. We had issues with littering. We had issues with highest, per capita waste generation. We had unproductive wastelands. We had uncoordinated governance. We had to put 6 different departments together to take a coordinated approach. Illegal waste dumping was common, but not, I guess, very common, but it was still there. Community was not engaged. We had an issue with our wastewater discharge into the ocean. We treated it to secondary treatment, but there was a massive loss of seagrass. The fish population had declined to nearly, less than 50%. Industry had issues with pollution and inefficiency. Some of the areas, groundwater had gone down to 300 meters. So you can see all those issues. So what I'm sharing with you is a journey. And where are we now? I mean, in terms of our waste diversion, currently we are 84% waste diversion. We achieve, I think we'll go to around 90%. This has created a multi-billion dollar industry in the state. So it's not just about environment, it's about economic opportunities. In terms of wastewater and stormwater, recycling and reuse, currently we are almost 50%, and which is pretty high because it's we pretty much recycle our most of the stormwater produced in the state. It is injected into aquifers, and we have created major water bodies. We have got. I can go on with a number of initiatives, but just to give an idea, as a global picture, it's nearly 50% of what is recycled and reused. And we have again created that create an industry. Most of the horticultural, viticultural, as well as agricultural industry, a lot of that is based on utilization of recycled wastewater and stormwater. Even we use a lot of the industries. We are using, and even for communities, we have got a community of around 20,000 houses, and the entire water supply of that community, especially, is got a dual reticulation system. So one is for your drinking and washing purposes, but then the second system is to actually takes care of the gardens, the ovals, the parks, the reserves, and also the household irrigation. So phenomenally successful, and that's being rolled out in other parts of the state as well. Renewable energy, at the moment, we are sitting around 57% of all the power that is consumed in the state comes from renewable sources, which is basically mostly solar and wind. So that just gives you a global picture of South Australia, where we are. That doesn't mean this is perfect, but it is a marked improvement in the last 30 years. Our circular economy coverage is quite broad, and it covers food, industry, urban renewable, aquaculture, mining, water and wastewater, waste and resource recovery, renewables and infrastructure. So we kind of look at all those aspects from a circular economy perspective. And how do we? What do we do? First of all, we take a very strong collaborative approach between industry, government, research organizations, and private sector. And I think we need to use a number of interventions. We need to have a good regulatory backup, a good policy structure, which enables, incentivization of, businesses and the community. We need to educate. I think we had one of the earliest groups established was called Keep South Australia Beautiful. It was established in 1965. And the intention of that group was to actually engage, develop. It's a community engagement and community partnership group, and done phenomenally well in terms of bringing the community up to speed. relationships, partnerships, and shared responsibility are very important aspects. And we also provide funding, and I'll cover some of those aspects as we go into this presentation. In terms of the strategic context, circular economy kind of, at least in the last, I would say 4 years, has kind of started to get into our strategic context for most of the, key aspects. And those 10 outlined there, which is public health and environment, industry transformation, climate change, resource circulation, community, urban regeneration. Even I think repurposing your urban open space, repurposing of your buildings, and is also part of circular economy, because these are assets which need to work for the society. Energy, dumping, and all those things. So it covers a very broad sort of spectrum. Now, just to give an idea on the renewable energy space, going back 15 years, we had hardly anything, and in the last 15 years, we have gone from pretty much very little to where we are, and that will actually double, literally, I'm not exaggerating, it will double in the next 3 years. And the state will become actually an exporter of power, which is going to use renewable energy. We have got the largest capacity battery storage facility, which is coupled with wind farms, and that provides power to 50,000 houses. It also provides a very important role in grid stabilization, which is very important. So that's and now we are building another one, which is even going to be bigger than this. This was done in partnership with Tesla. So we are putting in-house battery storage facilities for 50,000 houses. And that's the scheme where those houses would pretty much be fully sustainable because they'll use the solar energy in the daytime. It will be stored in the battery, and then it will be sort of kind of done in a way where most of their energy is taken care of by the battery storage. So there's a home battery scheme which is subsidized, and it works. The uptake is pretty phenomenal. In terms of the solar rooftop coverage, I think it is one of the highest coverage in the world, where I don't have the exact figures, but it's a very high percentage of the houses actually, and residential and commercial complexes are having solar storage, solar panels. We just produced a white paper on our hydrogen industry and how we are going to create a hydrogen roadmap. A lot of work happening on grid storage, and I'll sort of keep moving in the area of. I guess another thing which I want to actually highlight here is that we should not look at circular economy purely from a waste perspective. I think it's actually it actually limits the benefits that could be derived. So it's very important to take a very comprehensive approach towards how you look at circular economy. So waste is very integral part of it, and as we currently have that in a very simple way shows the 3 different waste streams: your curbside collection, your commercial and industrial, and construction and demolition waste. It goes through this very simple sort of. It's quite complex than what it shows in the diagram, but in the end point is this, that we currently are around 84% diversion from waste, but I think we'll reach 90% once we actually take food waste out of the waste stream as well. Just on we got a 3-bin system. One is your bin for recyclables, where you can actually put your paper, cardboard, aluminum cans, glass bottles. Very simple system, but works very effectively. That it goes to an MRF for recovery. We have a green organics bin which takes care of the green waste as well as food waste, and that basically we got 2 major composting plants in the state, and the quality of the compost that is produced is absolutely exceptional. In terms of construction and demolition waste, everything gets recycled. We have nothing goes to landfill. It's banned to go to landfill. Even commercial and industrial waste, we fuel the thermal power plant. We produce what is called process-derived fuel using our commercial and industrial waste, and that goes to powering the cement plant. So I'm going to cover some of the things, and then I'm going to get back to some key aspects which I need to talk about. But this just gives a it's a very bird's eye view of the state. There are so many things that are happening, but it's pretty hard to do it in 20 minutes. But in 2009, we banned single-use plastic bags. The community was brought along in that journey, done very well with that. Now recently we have banned single-use plastic, like straws and cups and you name it, all those things. And again, the community is right behind it, because there is a process how you engage with the community. There is a lot of hard work that goes into it. But once you get the community on side, things start to really happen. Now, I want to take a step back, and before I go to the next slide, about a few things which are critically important. I mean, we talk about circular economy, but circular economy is our green economy. Is basically very much a human engineering and a social engineering issue. Because there are 6.5 billion people out there, right? And they all, what they do and the choices they make and the way they live and the way they consume and the way they dispose actually has tremendous bearing on finally how we go about and what is the impact of it. So to some extent, one other thing that we have tried to do very hard is to actually look at in all aspects of circular economy. I mean, one of the profound quotes I will share with you was actually made by Gandhi, and he said that to the senior government officer, he said, whatever you do, any policy measure, any strategic measure you take, you look at the poorest of the poor out on the street and see and ask yourself whether the interventions you are going to make, how, in what shape and form that's going to impact and how it's going to actually positively impact the person out there. So to some extent, we need to bring down these great concepts, great policies into tangible actions and make them real and tangible. And there is a lot of hard work that goes behind it.
5 minutes.
Okay. Recycle water, one of the largest, recyclers, and again, I'll sort of just say that it's a phenomenally successful program done over the last 20 years, and wastewater reuse and recycling. Again, I mean, the biosolids produced from the wastewater, 98% of that gets utilized for farm application, and this has involved the community, because you got to engage with them, the farmers. You got to have the tests, you got to have the scientific data but also need to get the data communicated very well. So that's another one. Waste to energy. I'll just, in terms of we are not a big state, and we are a 1 million population in Adelaide, and the state is perhaps 1.5 million. But so everything becomes scaled up. So with the circular economy, the report that we just did recently identified that nearly 25,000 jobs could be created in the next 10 years. This is critically important to understand, in my view, because we need to really ensure that this circle of circular economy is understood by people in terms of moving, because everything has to work. You've got to have market instruments, got to have technology, got to have systems thinking, good policy mechanism, good enforcement, and good education. And when you have those things in place, you drive change. And that requires work. About CAA, we are an impact agency. We focus on 4 areas, which is international collaboration, thought leadership, capacity building, and knowledge. We are a knowledge partner to the World Bank, to United Nations Center for Regional Development. So we work on those 4 areas. And these are some of the partners that we work very closely with. One of the key programs that we run, which is for, basically my logic is this, that to change, to inspire the community and engage with the community, you need to first inspire the leaders, and you need to empower the leaders. And when you empower the leaders, they actually empower the community. So the leadership program is all about that. And I'll just the key aspects of the leadership program is very much real, very experiential learning platform. It's an immersion program where you learn with your peers, you learn with practitioners, and you learn on projects. And I'll share a quick video at the end of it, which is just a video which is worth having a look at. But it's looking at all those aspects like presentations, site visits, networking, peer engagement sessions, and then analysis of case studies. So it's something which we do. Few things which I want to share on circular economy. A lot of wonderful work is being done, and a lot of work done by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, a lot of age, but we can keep it very simple. And this slide actually talks about how we can actually again start to bring it down to very simple things, what circular economy is all about. It is basically keeping your resources in circulation. It is basically, I always say waste, there is no such thing as waste. Waste is a resource at a wrong place. It's a resource, but it's a wrong place. And so that's something to share. Another way to look at it is if you cannot reduce, reuse, recycle, remanufacture, repair, repurpose, redesign, recover, then you must reconsider, reevaluate, redesign, and reject. So another way to look at circular economy. Now, key things. We need to invest heavily on thought leadership because we need people to see that this is the way to the future. We need to collaborate, which is a very strong thing. Waste is the resource at the wrong place. A preventative approach is sacrosanct, absolutely sacrosanct, because you cannot take an end of the pipe or a pollution control approach. And we need to demystify and declutter circular economy without dumbing it down, without making it, We discussed that. I need to share this video with you, which is worth sharing. So can we play the video? I think.
Adelaide, capital of South Australia, one of the world's most progressive green states and host of the Global Leadership Program on the Circular Economy. Adelaide, capital of South Australia, one of the world's most progressive green states and host of the Global Leadership Program on the Circular Economy. It's a unique program endorsed by the United Nations Centre for Regional Development, designed to give community, business and government leaders the practical skills to make a difference. Its breadth makes it unique, covering areas which have earned South Australia its international circular economy reputation. At the core of the program are hosted visits to major businesses which are leaders in the circular economy. In 5 full days, you'll see many aspects of the circular economy in practice, and you'll learn from the businesses and people who are making it a success. The program covers 4 themes: circular economy policy and practice, including waste minimisation, recycling, climate change, energy efficiency and renewable energy. Water management, how Adelaide's a leader in wastewater reuse, water-sensitive urban design, stormwater reuse, wetlands and aquifer storage. Community and society, focusing on how to change behaviour, and industry and technology, including innovation incubators and resource efficiency.
You will learn from peers, practitioners and projects, with the focus on the how part of delivering the circular economy, learning how to transform ideas into actions.
In Adelaide, you'll meet your peers and network with other leaders from around the world. You'll gain practical knowledge from discussing their successes, and you'll develop your own personal action plan and become part of an exclusive alumni.
I'm hoping that through this program they'll be able to take back the ideas, some knowledge, and actually do something and make a difference. It's not that hard, but it does require people to be persistent and to actually give it a go, as we say in Australia, because it's important.
The circular economy has transformed Adelaide, See for yourself in one of the world's most livable cities and empower yourself to realize the benefits of the circular economy.
To see some leaders participating in the but it's designed to inspire change. So thank you for the wonderful opportunity.
Adelaide, capital of South Australia, one of the world's
Thank you, Mr. Hemant. Okay, I'd like to introduce our third speaker for this session, Engineer Maritza Vargas. She's an international sustainability and environmental consultant with mechanical engineering background in multinational oil and gas and mining industries, energy and carbon management, greenhouse gas emission inventory, IPCC protocol, CBD UNF CCC, and ISO 14064. Environmental impact assessment, management and legislation, environmental auditing, water management, waste treatment, economic cost benefit analysis, environmental training, legislation, environmental compliance, management system, GRI, global reporting initiatives, sustainability reports, social investment valuation, project management and logistics, and she has a research and experience in sustainability rating systems such as LEED, Estidama, and a proficient on smart cities, natural resource economy. So, welcome, Ms. Martiz.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much to the Royal Commission, Yambo, and Jubail, and to the Environmental Center for Uptown for inviting me here to talk to you about this interesting topic. We're going to talk about green industry leading sustainability to achieve national plan. We're talking about 4 areas, and it's quite large. And also I have at the end 2 little videos that I want to show you. So I will go through the slides as fast as I can to keep the time of the conference. So first, green industry. Why green industry? Well, because green industry is the backbone, the column for development. If we are able to transform the private and the public industry to work for the environment and for the people, while maximizing profit and minimizing impact, we will be on the path to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals globally, and at the same time, we will be fulfilling the national plan objectives. So these are the 4 topics that we're going to talk about. Green industry. There are 4 types of industry, as we know. The primary industry is the one that works with the extraction of natural resources like oil and gas, mining, forestry, fishing. The secondary industry is the one that processes these the natural resources like petrochemicals, manufacturing, food industry, any manufacturing industry. The tertiary is the one that gives services using products from the secondary, like tourism, entertainment, transport, retailing, etc. And the 4th industry is also known as knowledge industry. It's for IT, artificial intelligence, and communications. The green industry is the one that uses the natural resources efficiently. That means use less materials, water, less products, use less land, from the early design of the products through the production, transport, and the use of the product and the people who use it, and then in the end of life as well. The green industry is also the one who uses energy efficiently. It could be through new technologies, innovation, or simply behavioral changes. Also, if there is available, we use clean energy like renewables or fossil fuels made in a cleaner way. Also minimize the environmental impact in the natural environment, uses clean production in zero waste, and in other words, works in the green economy. So when we talk about green industry, we're talking about all the sectors that we talked about before, being efficiently and cleaner. Now we go to the second part, is the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. Four years ago, in September 2015, 193 member states of the United Nations met in New York to adopt the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 targets to make a better world for all and leaving no one behind. The Sustainable Development Goals are an ambitious plan of action encapsulated by 5 Ps: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The goals are universal. They apply to all nations and people, seeking to tackle inequality and leave nobody behind. They are integrated and indivisible. They cover a wide range of areas, including end poverty, hunger, ensuring sustainable production and consumption, equality for all people, protecting the natural environment and biodiversity, promoting peaceful, educated, and inclusive societies. The 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals is based in Sustainable Development Principle, which is environment, society, and economy. And as you can see, there are 4 targets for environment, 8 for society, 4 for economy, and 1 for partnership. All this one applies to industry, but there is one that is the most relevant one, is the responsible consumption and production. So what happens when we add the green industry with the Sustainable Development Goals? What we get is sustainable business. But is it sound for the economy? There is a report from the Business Sustainable Development Commission that says that an additional market value of $12 trillion could be unlocked by 2030 if the SDGs are implemented, creating 380 million jobs. So how to become a sustainable business? First is leadership. We need to have the will to change. Is an animation? Okay. Then we have to do the baseline of the business, of the industry. This is the data gathering. We need to take all the information, all the data we have financially, environmentally, the human resources involved in the manufacturing of the product. We have to give a life cycle approach from cradle to grave. We need to get the data from the suppliers, from the whole value chain of the product. Number 2, coming. Coming the number 2. Sorry. Coming. Good. So number 2, we need to make the comparison between the goals of the business and match them with the SDGs. So what we do, we make a sample of the SDGs, like a mapping template. We will show you here. Not working. It was working before. Okay. So this is the mapping template. What we do is that we compare in the columns. Coming along. Excuse me, I need help. Abdullah, please. I'm sorry, technical problem. Before. With a spreadsheet. Aha, that one. Okay, sorry. Okay. So what we have here in the columns are the 17 development goals. Then in the first row we have the target that apply to the industry, and then we see how the sector contribute. For example, the first column we have Sustainable Development 1, that is end poverty, and the industry that we are looking at could invest in local communities, enhance access to energy, contribute to resilience of vulnerable communities, to climate risk. Then we have the value chain stage, if it's upstreams or operations or multiple. Then if the impact is direct or indirect, the geographic location, and the last 4 rows are the level of impact. If this, the industry is making a positive impact to the SDG or a negative, or what is the sector potential to contribute, and what is the potential to add a business value. Okay, this is another way to see what is the impact of the industry and or the sector within the Sustainable Development Goals. We have in the sector potential to contribute to the SDGs, and then the current level of negative impact. And we do the same with the positive impact. So the ones, the SDGs that are inside the squares are the ones that are more relevant to the industry, are the ones that we should prioritize to start working with. Once we do that, we are ready to set the targets for the industry in line with the SDGs. So we do again the life cycle approach. We design, we change the materials, the operations, we talk to our suppliers, the transportation, the use, we change, and we put new targets to be more closer to the Sustainable Development Goals. Then comes something very important, that is reporting, sustainability reporting. The United Nations Global Compact, or the Global Reporting Initiative, the Clean Development Disclosure Project, the OECD, there are many guidelines, but the important is to start reporting and getting the data to compare if we are advancing and if we are in the right track. The United Nations Global Compact says that investors are pushing companies to act and to report on sustainability. These are some of the benefits of reporting. No, you can integrate the corporate responsibility into operations, improve the reputation, enhance stakeholder relations, the commitment with the CEO, and demonstrate active participation with the global common. So once we have the baseline and the targets and the reporting, we become a sustainable business. And we are contributing to achieve the national plans. Now we are going to talk about national plans. To integrate the national plans with the SDGs is something we do a process similar to the one with businesses. However, it's much, much complex because we have several institutions and several sectors working all together. The 2030 agenda as I said, is integrated, indivisible, and very ambitious and applied to all. But however, they say that each country needs to take into account their own national realities and circumstances. So the first thing we do is to review existing strategies and plans and identify the areas of change. This is to scan and detail the landscape of existing strategies and plan at the national, subnational, and local levels. And then we compare against the Sustainable Development Goals and the targets to identify the gaps. Where is the place that we have to work? Then we have to set a nationally adapted, inclusive sustainable development goals that are applicable, relevant, and implementable. And third, we need to formulate the strategies and plans using system thinking to incorporate the recommendation and the insight from the above steps into strategies and plans and matching ambitions and commitment with resources and capacities. These are the key factors implementing the SDGs with national plans. We need resilient institutional foundations, coordination and implementation, national ownership and stakeholder engagement, and mechanism for monitoring and review. Like Angela Merkel said, it's important to have a good strategy, but it's also important to have coherence and implementation. The political commitment and leadership is the first thing. Integration of the policies, intergenerational time frame, analyze and assessment the policy effects, policy institutional coordination, legal and regional involvement, stakeholder engagement, and monitoring and reporting. Now I'm going to talk, I have only 5 minutes. I'm going to talk about these 3 quick examples. This is the voluntary national review of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's an excellent report. It's very modern, very concise, very clear, very direct. And the report presented in 2018 shows the Kingdom highly committed to implementation and achievement of the SDG, globally and nationally, since they align with the Saudi visions 2030 and is keen to be part of the global processes, sharing knowledge and best practices. That is exactly what we're doing here today. It reviews the 17 SDGs, giving emphasis in the 6 more relevant to the country. The Saudi Vision 2030 presents 3 pillars: vibrant society, thriving economy, ambitious nation, which are similar to the one in the SDGs. It endorses 12 constructive programs and works in programs to develop new programs. The Saudi Vision tackles the major challenge of the country, that is diversifying the economy. One interesting project is the National Transformation Program, which encourages business and private sector to work towards sustainability. That is this presentation, with long-term links to economic and environmental system, and not only to short-term profitability. In this chart, we can see how the Sustainable Development Goals are applied in the plan of Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom has done huge investment in transport, communication, e-government, energy efficiency, renewables, waste management, human development, and protecting the marine environment. Then comes the China. China is a very interesting country too, because it's the largest developing country in the second economy in the world, facing rare opportunities and daunting challenges. This is an extremely detailed report showing each of the 169 targets with the plan of China. Among the interesting strategies, China...
2 minutes.
Sorry. The last one is the Germany. Is the last video to finalize the presentation. Also, it's a very short video. Can you put the video? Can you put the video, please? Just 3 minutes, please.
A heart beats for as long as we look after it. It needs movement, good air, clean water, healthy food, and of course, peace and human affection. And the heart of the world needs looking after for our children and grandchildren. That's why the United Nations agreed Agenda 2030. Only if all members strive to achieve the goals for sustainable development will we be able to sustainably heal and protect our planet. From the very start, Germany has been highly committed to contribute to this unique global project, and proves that again with the latest version of the German Sustainable Development Strategy passed in 2016. The German government sets itself more than 63 ambitious national targets, at least one for each SDG. What is Germany doing to ensure well-being for all? We want to preserve the environment by reducing air pollution by 55% of 2005 levels by the year 2030. To do this, we need visionaries and conditions that foster research. In Hamburg, Oslo and other cities, green walls are tested that are each as effective as 275 trees.
The function of the city tree is based on a biotechnology, a special moss culture, which has the ability to attract air pollution from its surrounding and to convert it into its own biomass. Thus, the moss literally eats air pollution.
What is Germany doing to ensure access to clean water for all? By 2030, 10 million more people each year should be being given access to clean water. In Kenya alone, some 20 million people still don't have access to clean drinking water. That's why Germany's GIZ agency has cooperated with the KfW Bank to set up the Water Sector Trust Fund. Thus, sponsored by the German government, water kiosks now exist in Kenya. And they now serve more than 1.7 million people.
We have different kinds of customers, their income is different, and these people are hardly able to afford an individual connection. So what we normally do, we do a water connection via water kiosk, which is a water sell point, whereby they can purchase water that they trust, the quality is known, the source can also be ascertained. So to ensure that everybody is served and no one is disadvantaged, we use a water kiosk as a technical solution to providing a formal service to these informal areas.
What are we doing to make cities safe and sustainable? Supporting green mobility for inhabitants. We have to do a lot more in this area. The goal is therefore to reduce final energy consumption in passenger and freight transport by between 15 and 20% each by the year 2030. To achieve that sustainably and extend it further, more than 100 companies are carrying out research and development in the areas of energy, sustainability and mobility on the UREF campus in Berlin. The campus has already met the government's CO2 climate protection goals for 2050. How can we drive electric, network electric, and how can we make the changes in energy provision and transport happen, and how can we show other people that it can work? And that's why we're here at the UREF campus, and why today we can witness the city of the future, the way it could be popping up everywhere tomorrow. What is Germany doing to ensure sustainable consumption and production? Ensuring that the market share of goods bearing state environmental labels is 34% by 2030. A goal that can only be achieved if entrepreneurs pursue sustainable strategies from day one. Startup camps at schools help sensitize the business people of tomorrow. The key thing about the student company is the advantage that it's practical. We don't use texts or pictures which we analyze and then go home without having done anything. What we're doing is getting a project going that we can pursue for the whole of the school year. You learn to work for yourself and do it with the idea of sustainability in mind. The German Sustainable Development Strategy is a means to an end. The goal is to ensure a life of dignity and security within our planetary boundaries for everyone, with the right to food and water, education and health provision, and especially for those who come after us.
Thank you very much for your time. These are just the conclusion. Green industry is viable and is the way to achieve the goals. First, sustainability reporting is the first approach. The goals
Thank you very
respect
much.
respect the necessity of the countries, and the major challenge is to be coherent and integrated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for a very informative session. Okay, I'd like to welcome Mr. Turki Al-Shehri, the Chief Executive Officer, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at ENGIE. He has over 15 years of experience in power systems, strong expertise in energy strategy and policy, integrated resources, supply planning, long-term, short-term term planning, market regulations, renewables and alternatives, cogeneration, efficiency enhancements, power system analysis, a track record of success in delivering effective and implementable strategies, engineering analysis, and project execution. So please help me welcome Mr. Turki.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Good afternoon, everyone. The first thing they told me was, please make it quick, because I know it's lunchtime very soon. But this is actually, I'm going to be very precise to the point. It's 10 minutes maximum. But before I start, I really want to thank the organizers, the Royal Commission. One thing that many people don't know about Yanbu is that the Ministry of Energy earlier this year announced Yanbu as being the most feasible location for solar and wind manufacturing in terms of cost, in terms of accessibility, and in terms of services. What I want to share with you today is basically how can we maximize the green potential in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And maybe just to start, we've possibly all seen these slides. Several reports have stated that the kingdom as a whole can generate anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 gigawatts of power. In terms of wind, anywhere between 30 and 50 gigawatts. But this is the theoretical potential. What is actually can be realized is obviously something very different. But what we can see from what is being realized is what's been announced. What's been announced in the market is the Renewable Energy Projects Development Program through the Ministry of Energy. They announced 60 gigawatts by 2030. This is the national program. This is truly what kick-started renewables in the kingdom. SABIC announced 4 gigawatts by 2025 and 12 gigawatts by 2030. The Red Sea is pursuing a 100% renewable target, also off-grid. This is roughly nearly anywhere between 500 to 1 gigawatt of renewable power. NEOM, also 100% renewable objectives. This is anywhere between 15 to 30 gigawatts of power. NADIC recently signed a PPA with ENGIE, our company, for 30 megawatts. This is the first corporate PPA in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So NADIC is really has done an amazing job on this aspect. And many companies are slowly taking pursuit. I personally have received several requests to do similar solutions as was done to NADIC. So what we're seeing is simply only the beginning of what is going to come in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And if you look at these targets, you're looking at anywhere roughly between 80 to 100 gigawatts by 2030. What does that represent from a global perspective? The global average based on Bloomberg, based on IEA between now and 2030 is 100 gigawatts every year. So the kingdom alone has the potential, or what we're seeing is the potential of obtaining 10% of that target, which is extremely significant. But this is, again, through the government program. We're seeing it in national companies, mega cities are following pursuit, and obviously the private sector as well. And both, I'm showing two examples because it's both on off-grid and on-grid solutions. Now, how can we ensure that we are able to obtain these goals or these aspirations that the government, that the public and private sector is pursuing? And I want to focus on the different types of investment frameworks that are possible in achieving these goals and objectives. What we see, or what exists fairly mainly in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, are credit-rated guarantees. So these are typical PPA projects, and you can even argue that the Kingdom in the region is actually a leader when it comes to project finance PPAs. And what I mean by this are the offtake agreements, the long-term PPAs with Aramco, with SABIC, with Repdu, with credit-rated entities. I will give an example of each and slowly define what I mean by each one. The corporate PPAs, the only one I'm aware of right now is with NADIC. However, we're seeing many of this happening. Concessions, none have I seen in the Kingdom as of yet, but there are examples around the globe. It is also taking place. Shared risk, or risk on exploitation. This is actually where the developer is also sharing a similar risk as the client, and I'll give you examples of what I mean by this. And then bilateral PPAs. There's basically a mix of concessions and shared risks. Also, I'll be giving examples of what I mean by this. So if we look at corporate or credit-rated guarantees, and what I mean by this are project finance PPAs. Again, this is basically when you have the client has a sovereign guarantee, like the Saudi Water Purchasing Company, or it's SEC, or it's Saudi Aramco. It's easy for us as developers to simply go get lending from the banks. Usually 80% of it is lended, and do the financing based on the project itself. So it's not based on the developer's credit or balance sheets. It's based on the actual project, because the off-taker is a credit-worthy entity like Aramco, like the Saudi government. This is moving very well in the Kingdom. There are no issues, and people are very relaxed with this type of triple P framework. What is new is the corporate PPAs. This is where, for example, in the case of NADIC, where the developer has to actually rate the entity that is purchasing the power. And we have to obtain the lending based on the developer's balance sheets. The risk is much higher, because now the lending is achieved on the developer's actual balance sheets, but it's still possible. And it is happening, and NADIC showed that it is possible. And I see this moving fairly quick in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Concessions. I'll show you examples elsewhere around the world, but what I mean by this is when the client wants to focus on their core activities, and they want to outsource their energy to someone who is more experienced, can provide better, higher efficiency, move towards the carbon transition. And I'll start with that particular example, since the first two are in the Kingdom. The third, I do see this happening. There are discussions on this. However, nothing has materialized as of yet. But I do believe this is the near or upcoming future for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The example I'm showing here is Ohio State University. And when I explain this, you'll see how it is very applicable to what we have in the Kingdom. What NG in particular did for Ohio State University is they outsourced all their energy needs. It was a 50-year concession agreement for power, water, heating, cooling, and energy efficiency. Basically, NG paid the Ohio State University $1 billion upfront. This is upfront, $1 billion for an agreement that they will purchase the power produced by NG for the next 50 years. In addition, it also includes NG committing to a 25% reduction on energy efficiency for the first 10 years. Why the first 10 years only? Because as technology develops, the upcoming years, the expectation is we will further reduce the energy consumption. This is clearly very possible. And because it was a university, we also paid an additional $150 million for academic collaboration. Now this, I'm sure you can see, can be easily replicated in the Kingdom. It's happening in the US, and other universities in the US are also looking for similar solutions. The other example I want to give, which is where the risk is on the exploitation, is the commercial risk. There's not a particular renewable example, but this is applicable to renewables. This is in the city of Avignon today in France. This was a triple P framework where NG, the developer, and the municipality actually built a tramway, 14-kilometer tramway, $300 million US, and the payments it was a shared capital expense, but the payments are based on the people actually using this tramway. So whether they use it or not, that is how the developer is actually retrieving back his payments. It's not a guaranteed, what we typically see in Saudi, where you're guaranteed payment for offtake. In this case, there's a commercial risk involved. Again, these are also possibilities that are happening outside of the kingdom, but we do believe are possible in Saudi Arabia. The last type of investment framework I want to share with you is a mixture of the last two I showed, and I think this is applicable to the megacities. Why? Because it includes, one, a concession where one developer is giving the complete right, as this megacity develops, to provide the power, the water, the cooling, the heating, but the developer has to take the risk as the city develops. This is, I haven't seen this anywhere in the world, but I do think it's possible and achievable. Therefore, in this case, as the first phase of the city develops, the developer is able to provide power and continue for phase 2, phase 3. For example, when the Marriott builds, he creates a PPA with the Marriott. When the Hilton goes up, he creates a PPA with the Hilton. This way, you're taking off that risk from the government, from the main construction developer, and it's being directed directly between the main developer or energy provider and the final client. So basically, as a final slide, what I want to show you is credit-rated guarantees or project finance PPAs. This is, I think Saudi is doing a fantastic job, could even be considered a global leader in this front, but maybe we're relying too much or relaxing too much on this component. Corporate PPAs, this is definitely moving forward. We're going to see much more corporate PPAs in the kingdom. It's also a global practice. Concessions, nothing yet as of now, but this is a global practice. Ohio State University that I shared with you. Risk on the commercial risk, also a global practice. And finally, a mix of the both, which I think are very applicable to the megacities happening in the kingdom today. So moving forward, there definitely needs to be much stronger collaboration between the private and public sector in order to meet the ambitions and goals of this great nation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Turki, for a very short presentation, but very informative. So now we have basically just a couple of minutes for questions, and then we will close this session. Any questions?
Mike is coming.
Thank you for the great presentations. I have a question for you. You mentioned that in Adelaide you're developing hydrogen harvesting, and would like to know a little bit more about that, because that seems like an extremely clean energy source.
Well, thank you for the question. And look, I'm not an expert in the area of that particular space, but would be happy to connect you with the people who are actually driving that particular project. One of the objectives of this forum is to connect and network. So absolutely, that will be something I'll happily do.
Good question. My question to John, I mean, you have shown us very good case study at company level. But can you tell us what the key challenges, because this is very good exercise like as a company level, but what is the key challenges we will face, or indirectly what the key success factors? And Martiza, question, Martiza, now you have shown us China and Germany for both sustainabilities. We are starting with 6. Do you think next year we should start for 8 or 12 for SDGs? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I mentioned before that circular economy requires change of a business model, and we practice what we preach at HP. Especially with the consumption-based model, we have to change the reward system of our people in order to adapt to the new way of selling, because that was in direct conflict with the traditional salesman. So that's one. We have done that, and we have moved on. Second, from the client perspective, a key issue, and we have faced time after time, is people are unawareness, of the importance of the circular economy, and B, the fact that there can be a win-win opportunity. That given our recent engagement with customers, primarily in Europe, but more the last couple of months in Saudi Arabia as well, I think we're optimistic that we're making headway.
Yes, answering to your question. Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, actually, the report from Saudi Arabia is very good, and it covers the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. However, it gives emphasis to the 6 that are working more. Saudi Arabia is already tackling all of the goals. However, as I said before, the Agenda 2030 is very clear. Every country needs to prioritize and the problems that they have to solve first. So Saudi Arabia is focusing now in the 6. It's water, energy, and for example, the other examples, China is more concerned about the difference that they have between the poor areas, the regional areas, and the gap there between the cities and the rural areas. For example, they have to tackle as well the huge poverty they have. And Germany is different. In Germany now they go to innovation, and they are worried about the new cohesion with the social sector. But Saudi Arabia, I think, is doing very well. The report is very clear. They are working. There are some areas that we have to work more, but that's normal, like any other. So, yes.
Thank you. Last question, please.
Last question, yes.
Actually, I would like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the great presentation. I would like to elaborate on the issue of renewable energy that Mr. Turki just mentioned for Yambo. My name is Zaidan Youssef. I'm the Director General of Investment at Royal Commission. Yambo now is one of the key initiatives for Jubail and for Yambo is the Renewable Energy Initiative, which is 2 components. It's focusing on the generation capacity, which is Yambo has been located as one of the best location for solar and wind. And manufacturing also of renewable energy equipment, which is a huge investment, more than 2 billion Riyal investment in various areas is being allocated. When it comes to the hydrogen, there is another initiative related to the hydrogen in both Jubail and Yambo, which harvesting the hydrogen. We are encouraging as the Royal Commission right now the hydrogen grid and network within the 2 cities. That is, we want to create a trading business for the hydrogen because certain industries, they have substantial surplus of their hydrogen. So that is a major initiative within the Royal Commission cities to capture the potential of the green economy opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's it. We're going to conclude, and I'll leave it to the organizer. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for moderating this session. Now it gives me a great pleasure to invite His Excellency, the Executive Director of the Royal Commission in Yambo, Mr. Adnan bin Aish Al-Alwani. Also, I would like to invite Mr. Engineer Khalid Badri, the Environmental Center for Arab Towns Director, to the stage as well. and Mr. Engineer Ali Al-Fhedi, the chairman of the conference, to honor the speakers. The moderators will be honored tomorrow, just to make this quick note. Now we will start with the first speaker this morning, Mr. Jane Nilsen. Mr. Gopalarki Shan Paduman Bahan. Dr. Amian Dahia. And Sharan Sandhu. The speakers of the second session, Mr. John Calworks. Sharan, please come forward. Sharan, please come forward. Sharan. Mr. Hemant Chaudhary. Engineer Maritza Vargas. And last but not least, Mr. Turki Al-Shehri. I would like to draw your attention that we are concluding the sessions of first day. We would like to invite all of you for our lunch right after this, the honoring of the speakers. Tomorrow we will start at our first session, morning session. Will start at 9 a.m. Thank you all very much for joining us, and looking forward to see you tomorrow. Please proceed to the lunch area. Again, tomorrow we will start at 9 a.m.